In this video, we'll continue solving math applications SL, paper 1, May 21. Let's get started. Question number 7. Professor Wei observed that students have difficulty remembering the information presented in his lectures. He modeled the percentage of information retained, R, by the function R of t equals 100 e power negative pt. T is more than or equal to 0, where t is the number of days after the lecture. T is the number of days after the lecture. He found that one day after a lecture, students had forgotten 50% of the information presented. A. Find the value of P. So, now to find the value of P, this missing P in the function, we need to substitute R and T. And according to this sentence, here we have T equals 1. This is after one day after the lecture. We will get R equals 50%. And we must notice that the function here, there is no percentage given or written, but the function itself modeled the percentage. So this means the result of R is a percentage, which means that we will substitute R with just 50, not 50%. Because 50%, if we substitute R with 50%, this means it's just half. No, R is 50 because the function is a percentage itself. So this is the initial values. We will substitute this to get the value of P. So we would write 50 equals 100 times e power negative p multiplied by 1. And from here, we will use our graphing display calculator, insert this into equations, and we will get p equals 0.6933147 and so on. So we need three significant figures, 0.693. So this is part A. B. Use this model to find the percentage of information retained by his students 36 hours after the Professor Wei's lecture. So here we will not substitute T with 36 hours because we know that T is number of days. So first step, we must convert 36 hours into days. If we divide 36 divided by 24, we will get 1.5. So 36 is 1.5 days. And this is our T. We will substitute T with 1.5 to get R of 1.5 equals 100 e negative p. We know it now, 0.693. T is 1.5. Substitute this into the calculator. R of 1.5 equals 35.4%. Then, based on his model, Professor Wei believes that his students will always retain some information from his lecture. Professor Wei believes that his students will always retain some information from his lecture. C. State a mathematical reason why Professor Wei might believe this. So we know that for any exponential function. Here we have our function r of t equals 100 e negative 0.693 t. For such exponential function, always there is a horizontal asymptote, and in this case the horizontal asymptote, this is plus 0, any function here, this plus 0, so this is our horizontal asymptote. So because the horizontal asymptote is 0, means that the value of r will never be 0. It will be always above 0, because this is the horizontal asymptote. Means that the function will never equal to 0, will never reach 0. So r will never be 0. That's why he believes they will always remember something, because r will never be 0. So the reason here that this function r of t, we might say it's more than 0. So this is the mathematical reason. Or another way, because r of t has horizontal asymptote y equals 0. So this is our mathematical reason the function will never be 0. There is a horizontal asymptote. D, write down one possible limitation of the domain of the model. So here we are talking about limitation of the domain of the model. So the domain here, this is the values of t. Domain is always x. Here in this case it's t. T represents number of days after the lecture. From the beginning it was written that t is more than 0. T is more than or equal to 0. So here is the thing. T represents number of days after the lecture. If t has very large number, has very large value, is this possible that we have, for example, 1,000,000 as t? Mathematically, we may substitute t with 1,000,000, but this is not supported because t represents number of days and this is not possible. So the first limitation, large values of t are not possible because simply people do not live forever. So large values of t are not possible, or you may say people do not live forever. This is the limitation of the domain. So this was question number 7. And I will be happy to read all your comments if you have any questions. Also, you can contact me on Twitter, Instagram, if you have any further questions. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Goodbye.